Mark A. Altman, Darren Dochterman, Ashley Edward Miller. 3 fans who became professionals and then became Trexperts. Inglorious Trexperts. Listen wherever you find podcasts or go to TrexpertsPlus.com.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, one of the co-hosts of Inglorious Trexperts. And if you're a Trek fan, you owe it to yourself to pick up the 50-year mission, the complete, uncensored oral history of Star Trek. It's available wherever you buy books, digital or audio. And speaking of books, check out my new book about the making of John Wick. They shouldn't have killed his dog. Also available wherever you buy your books. You see a pattern happening here? Well, what are you waiting for? Get on it. Hey, this is Mark Altman of Inglorious Trexperts in the 430 Movie. And if you're a fan of our podcast, you don't want to miss Deck 78, available now by subscribing at TrexpertsPlus.com. This is a bonus podcast full of great discussions about popular culture, film, and television. This episode features an exclusive freewheeling conversation about Battlestar Galactica 1978. By your command, here's a sneak peek. Let's do it. Okay, ready for the holiday special? Here we go. 10 best Galactica characters, starting with 10. Beryllian Noman at 10. Okay, number 9. Number 9. God. Come on, who's number 9?
Number 9 is Cyrus Bellaby.
No, she's not in the top 10. Come on.
Sure he is.
No, you know Lloyd Bachner from the Eastern Alliance.
No, I hate the freaking Eastern Alliance. It's the stupidest thing ever.
Okay.
Your white knight.
Okay, come on, number 9. Okay, it's Green Bean. Yeah. Ed Beagley Jr.
Oh my God,
Lieutenant Green Bean.
As what was his name? Come on,
Green Bean. Yeah,
Green Bean.
Mm-hmm. Okay, number 8.
Sheba.
No, Sarah Rush, the Rigel. She's the one who goes, launch all Vipers. Okay, we're going to get to Sheba, right?
Okay.
So, okay, number 7.
Number 7 is the Chief Ovion.
It can't be the singers. It's love.
No, they're higher up.
Okay. Well, because we're getting, because you got to have Count Ibley in the top 5.
Yeah.
You got to have Adama.
Don't tell me who we got to have.
Starbuck, Sheba.
Yeah.
Right?
What about Serena? What about Serena?
Oh, Serena. Yeah.
And Apollo.
You got to have Jane Seymour.
Apollo, maybe?
I guess.
Starbuck, Imperious Leader.
Yes.
Thora, the computer.
Baltar.
Oh, yeah. How can you got a Baltar?
Baltar.
You got to have Baltar.
Oh, my God. This got to be a holiday special. We need more time.
Wait. You guys, you've listed all of these names, and I haven't heard Janeway past any of the rest. What's going on here?
You're funny.
What about the Daggett? You got to have the Daggett.
No, you don't.
Muffy.
No, you don't.
You got to have Commander Kane.
And you got to have Commander Kane.
And you don't have to have Boxy.
No, you don't.
Oh.
Yeah, no, you don't need that Boxy.
Wesley Crusher.
But you need Athena. You need Athena because we were all like 10 years old at the time.
I didn't like Boxy when I was on, but I think it was more like I was jealous that this kid got to hang out on those sets and be in that show.
I didn't like that kid.
And you were rooting against him in Neverending Story.
Yeah, I didn't like that he was the impetus for all these stories. Like he hit out on the shuttle, so he goes down to the Gun on Ice Planet Zero because he was hiding on the shuttle. It's like
Muffy wants to see snow.
Yeah,
show Muffy snow.
And then Fire in the he's in the center of the action again, and Fire in Space. It's like I don't like.
They kind of wrote him out of the show by the second half, though.
And Athena also.
I loved Athena.
Yeah. Well, who didn't?
Athena and Serena were my two go-to babes.
Apparently, Don Henley didn't love her enough. He didn't marry her. Too soon.
Yeah.
But what else? So I mean, it's just like look at the way we talk about the show. It's almost like Inglorious Galactic Spurts. It's crazy. I don't know. But there's a legacy here So subscribe today at TrexpertsPlus.com and don't miss a single episode of Deck 78. Fire the rockets.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and this is an all-new episode of the 430 Movie. Welcome to Prince of Tide Week, the films of Denzel Washington. And once again, we have all your favorite 430 Movie hosts ready to curate the perfect week of classic Denzel Washington movies. On Monday, it's Steve Melching.
Ooh, I'm feeling like a ton of butterflies.
On Tuesday, Darren R. DOCHTERMAN. The R is for rewind.
Robin Hood, Prince of Tides.
On Wednesday, it's Ashley Edward Miller.
Let's pretend I remember the speech about Lipizzaner Stallions.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Oh, I was hoping you'd do the Plymouth Rock speech. And on Thursday, it's me, Mark A. Altman, and welcome to another week of the 430 Movie. As we record this, it's the day after the Oscars. Wondering if you guys had any thoughts about what transpired last night at the it's not the Kodak Theater anymore, is it? I don't even know what it's called.
What is it
The
now?
GAF
It's
Theater?
the Polaroid
what the
Theater.
heck is it?
GAF. The Polaroid there. That's really funny. The Fuji. Fuji Theater.
Film.
It's the TikTok Theater is what it is.
Yeah, probably. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts. I mean, look, number one, I think that it's nice to see, like, there was such a lovely collection of people who won awards that there was something about it that I think was sort of communally celebratory for everybody who loves movies. And I think for that reason alone, I think that Everything Everywhere will be remembered fondly, because it's not like the winner wasn't something where people are like, I have no idea what that movie was or why I should go see it, but it sounds depressing. It's not like that. It's a genre film. It's original. It's interesting. It's cool. So that's all great. The thing that ticked me off was Puss in Boots 2 getting absolutely robbed, mugged, got the crap kicked out of it, and robbed.
Yeah, I was thinking more about actually the ceremony. I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed and watched an Oscars where I wasn't cringing the whole time. And I think overall, I thought Jimmy Kimmel did a great job, and the speeches for the most part were just not laundry lists of agents at CAA or Endeavor. It was really a lot of it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of heart to it. It was a fun evening, or
better than last year.
No, that's
well,
true.
anything would be better than the last couple of years. I think just by comparison, it's a huge improvement.
Well, he did high five a bear, so that was awesome.
A cocaine bear.
A cocaine bear.
Yeah, the whole thing just had a nice vibe to it, and it was blessedly not completely devoid, but there wasn't a lot of nonsense in it.
I think it's a good way to close out the Oscars and never have them again.
Agreed.
Well, it was nice to see. All these comebacks, the comeback stories, and the amount of true delight that so many people. I mean, and seeing Short Round at Indy at the end.
That was amazing.
That
broke me.
Short Round's entertainment lawyer is Chunk.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thrilled to know that all the Goonies called him, which is great. But I just have to know, did Thanos call him? Right? It's like, where was Josh Brolin?
Right. Josh Brolin, right.
That's right.
Josh Brolin isn't Thanos. Josh Brolin is the driver of Thanos.
That's right.
So today we're talking about the films of one of a true living legend, one of the great treasures of cinema, Denzel Washington, a phenomenal actor. I, of course, I don't know how you guys first discovered him. I used to love him on St. Elsewhere way back in the 80s. Came on, was one of those great MTM shows that came on, after the success of Hill Street Blues. Yeah. There was a swing and a miss with Bay City Blues, but St. Elsewhere was a phenomenal series, and it continues to be a cultural touchstone given the ending of that famous ending. Steve, tell us a little bit about Denzel and this road that has led him to movie stardom.
Well, as you say, he started out doing a lot of theater and television, and I also was a regular viewer of St. Elsewhere, at least the first 4 years before I went off to college and didn't really have a TV or time to watch TV. But it was a staple. It was at 10 o'clock. It was NBC, part of the early days of the must-see TV Thursday night lineup on NBC, and I definitely remember him from that. And from that, he segued into films, and don't want to list a bunch of titles.
About some of those yeah, exactly.
We might just talk about a couple of them, but his star seemed to ascend pretty quickly in the second half of the 80s on film, with a number of particularly notable performances. And as his career continued, he's a true movie star. I think during Tom Cruise Week, we talked about, how many movie stars are still around these days. And I think Denzel certainly qualifies. He's someone who's done a range of really interesting work and played a lot of, powerful characters. And he's a class act, and he's someone who's won 2 Oscars and been nominated for 8 more. Won 3 Golden Globes and nominated for 8 more Golden Globes as well. So he's he's someone who's been a major presence on film for 40 years almost.
Well, Steve, I've gone through the list of Denzel Washington movies. I've redacted a bunch of them that could be talked about today, which leaves Virtuosity as the one that we can
go eat a dick, Mark. I'm kidding.
I prefer not to. Thank you.
That's great. You're just named Wednesday. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I know. Even you
no.
could not possibly.
I would have to find some virtue in Virtuosity.
I was on the set of that, though, as a journalist. Way back when.
Don't be too proud of that technological terror.
Darren, when did you first discover Denzel Washington?
Well, I'm not going to say it until we come up to the film. But let's just say that throughout his career, he's always been consistently good, solid performer, and even in his off-screen life, he's always been regarded as a solid player. Meaning a performer, and he may have gotten into a little trouble with monetary things, but who doesn't? It's just one of those things of living in the big city. But I think that he is vastly regarded as a quality performer and a quality person to work with.
And, obviously we're limited in terms of what we can say about Denzel, Ashley, because any of these movies other than Virtuosity could show up this week. So we're going to instead talk about his son, the great John David Washington. Any thoughts about him? Because, man, what a stellar career he has had in the few years that he's been acting.
Totally. I mean, he was, he was terrific in Tenet, except you couldn't hear any of his lines. Look, how can we even begin? It's so funny because it's like, how do we start talking about Denzel without talking about his movies? Yeah, I know about Denzel because I saw a bunch of movies with no name. And it's just, it's the thing about his kid is that he clearly inherited his father's chops for acting. It's not like, and then I guess there's the, he sort of got in the business because his dad was in the business and I guess he's fine. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't mean to throw shade at Scott Eastwood, but he's not, it's not
Nepo baby.
Exactly. Like Scott Eastwood is not his old man. It's like, he's a good looking kid. He's a good actor, but like his dad has a certain something. Denzel Washington's kid has that same thing that Denzel has.
Yeah, I mean, and what they say about a movie star is even in a bad movie, they're worth watching. And it's like John David Washington was great in Amsterdam, right? And I loved him in Black Klansman. So like his father, and I think we'll talk about some of these movies, he hasn't always chosen the best movies, but even in some bad movies, other than Virtuosity, he's really great. So without any further,
Denzel, all his roles, he's a movie star. He's got that, that handsome exterior, but he always brings, this intensity and intelligence and passion and strength and to all of his characters, whether they're, good characters or darker characters. And he's one of those guys you always kind of want him to be on your side, or you don't want to have, you want to stay far away from him.
Steve, I'm going to get a lot of, emails and texts now that say, I thought I hated Mark on the show for his politics, but now I'm really upset about how much he hates virtuosity.
Yeah, that guy.
People can be really
Brett
offended.
Leonard will be sending you some hate mail.
I prefer the lawnmower man.
That was my life. I put a year of my life into that thing.
I don't care that you hate Trump, but I do care that you hate virtuosity. Okay.
The line must be drawn here.
You sound like Kermit there for a second. Let's not go down that road yet. The Muppets First Contact. Okay, so we're, as always,
you broke your little ships.
I said we're not going to go there. Okay, on Monday it's Steve Melching with our first pick of the week, first catch of the week.
Well, Monday, I thought we could ease into Monday with Denzel playing a character named Easy Rollins in a film called Devil in a Blue Dress.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Easy.
For Ezekiel Rollins, L.A. was a world of sunshine and shadows.
Hey, Easy, how you doing, baby? Junior, take Easy on upstairs.
Black and white.
We got no work here. Sorry, fella. My name's not fella. My name is Ezekiel Rollins.
So here you need a job.
What kind of work you do?
I'm just looking for somebody. Daphne Monet, fiance of Todd Carter. She's been gone 2 weeks. See, Daphne has a predilection for the company of Negroes.
He thought he knew how to play the game.
Any of y'all seen a white girl by the name of Dahlia, Delia, something like that?
My name is Daphne. You can't get none of that tonight.
You know her?
Until he stepped into a world.
Why don't you tell me about your friend Daphne?
Colored woman ain't good enough for you no more, Hines.
Where there are no rules.
Why are you arresting me?
Now, what time did you leave Greta James' house this morning?
What is going on?
She's not going to be waking up, Ezekiel.
He's looking for a woman no one wants found.
Was there anyone with you, a young lady named Daphne Monet, perhaps?
The incumbent mayor, the chief of police, close personal friends of mine.
Then they can help us find her.
No, they can't.
And getting in deeper than he ever expected.
This is Daphne Monet. You're looking for me. I don't know if I should think of you as a friend or as a private dick.
Surrounded by lies.
You can trust me, Mr. Rollins. I am the next mayor, and luckily for you, a friend of the Negro.
Seduced by power.
Unless I give the cops a killer by tomorrow morning, I'm going to jail.
Easy Rollins is searching.
Not very smart talking about Mr. Carter's business.
There's too much going on for me to give a damn about what you think is smart.
For the truth.
Who killed her?
I don't know.
Don't lie to me! Start up my car, keep it hot, I'm coming out fast. Let's go! Get her. No, don't shoot him. We going to the police. Yeah, why don't you scream, huh?
From the Academy Award-winning producers of Philadelphia and The Silence of the Lambs, Academy Award winner Denzel Washington, Devil in a Blue Dress, a Carl Franklin film.
Which is a terrific film from 1995, written and directed by Carl Franklin, who had previously done another movie that I picked on the show, One False Move, another great neo-noir, but has perhaps become better known as a TV director for things like Rome and Mindhunter, The Pacific, House of Cards. Is based on the first novel in a series of Easy Rollins novels by Walter Mosley. I think there are 15 books in the series, and Devil in the Blue Dress is the first one. It was photographed immaculately by Tak Fujimoto, who is just a legendary cinematographer who did Silence of the Lambs and The Sixth Sense and Badlands and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Music by Elmer Bernstein. produced by Jonathan Demme and Gary Gutzman and Jesse Beaton. And this incredible, beautiful production design by Gary Fruitkoff, who also did a bunch of Soderbergh movies like Out of Sight, The Limey, and King of the Hill. And, this is a star turn for Denzel Washington playing Easy Rollins, who was a worker in Los Angeles, 1948, at an aircraft, some kind of an aviation company who's fired, and finds himself getting hired by a kind of a shady private investigator played by Tom Sizemore, who we lost very recently, sadly passed away. And he's hired to go into the parts of Los Angeles where, a white man might not be welcome. So he's hired to track down a woman named Daphne Monet, who's played by Jennifer Beals. And he through their many twists and turns in this, this violent, scary underworld, he's this world of murder and political intrigue, and he's joined by his best friend, Mouse, played by the great Don Cheadle, who's sort of a trigger-happy, sidekick. And it's just a wonderfully powerful performance in this great period film noir that sadly was not a success at the box office. It did not gross anywhere near what it cost to make, but it's a terrific, solid movie.
I was going to say, what a great franchise, except it wasn't.
They've been trying to develop this franchise for me. I think they tried to do it in television several times, and I think they tried to do movies more than once, and it's just never came together for whatever reason.
And Criterion just released it in 4K for those of you who may not have seen it, who want to check it out. It's a terrific noir, anchored by this great detective performance from Denzel.
Yeah, and it looks absolutely beautiful.
It's one of the best recreations, I think, of like post-war Los Angeles I've ever seen on film. It's gorgeous.
Which isn't easy, anything from the last 30 years, because the architecture of LA has changed so dramatically. Mm-hmm. That's why all those post-war films, like through, certainly in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, going into the early 70s, you could pull it off. But as you get into the 80s and 90s, then you get something like Gangster Squad, which uses all the CGI, which is terrible, as opposed to actually finding architecture that looks like, the three buildings that are still standing that still look like 40s LA.
They did a great job.
Edison. And only one film was able to recreate Toontown accurately.
They found some great neighborhoods that really look like those, post-war, developments. And I know they filmed a lot they filmed some at the old Ambassador Hotel, which is now gone, sadly.
Nope, I still have asbestos from shooting there in my lungs. Let me tell you, I spent a couple of weeks shooting there, and it was absolutely a gift. I mean, I was so excited. I would wander off and through the hallways and just watch history, and go, to the famous kitchen where Robert Kennedy was shot. Went up to the Sammy Davis Jr. suite, which was like dilapidated, and then of course stepped onto the stage of the Coconut Grove. Yes. I don't remember what I sang, but it was pretty. I sang to the Ghosts.
It was probably Copacabana.
Yeah, probably was.
The tunnels out to the
bungalows.
The pool,
the bungalows.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there was the famous tunnel that they took. Got Marilyn Monroe in and out of the hotel, and there was also that great lobby area where Benjamin Braddock checked into the hotel in The Graduate. I mean,
are you here for an affair, sir?
We spent about 5 months there in the bungalows working on Guilty by Suspicion back in 1990. And that was a lot of fun. And I got to explore a little bit of the hotel. And they were shooting a section of The Doors there at the time. And that was interesting.
I love that place. I mean, it was like preserved in amber. And then about 10, 15 years ago, they finally tore it down and built a school, a massive school there, which obviously is a good thing. But and they kept the Coconut Grove, I think, as the school auditorium. But I definitely think I took years off my life filming there because clearly there was, there were some rooms you weren't supposed to go into because they were so asbestos laden. But
like room 237.
Yeah.
But,
so that's a great
But Denzel Washington shines in this movie as the star of this movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's really worth seeking out. It's a really solidly made, twisty film noir, and Denzel, gives a wonderful performance.
Well, actually, you can get the new Criterion 4K.
Yeah,
for your screening room.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that brings us to Tuesday, and Darren Dochterman.
I am going to a film that not many people know about, certainly not many people remember, but it's a solid movie. The casting is a little odd, but it is 1996's Courage Under Fire.
Matella, find me a target.
I think I got one, sir.
Do you or do you not have a target?
It's hard to make out, sir.
Fire!
Sir!
Patella, is that one of our tanks?
A man with questions about his own conduct.
Losing a man like your friend Boilar. I've been there.
Must now defend the courage of another.
The White House has heard that we're considering the Medal of Honor for this chopper pilot who saved a bunch of guys on the down Black Hawk. Naturally, they want it for Veterans Day.
Naturally. It's a woman. You didn't know?
This is Captain Karen Walden. She's the first woman in history to be nominated for a Medal of Honor for combat.
I don't know if it was Captain Walden, sir, but that Huey saved our lives.
What happened out there, Sergeant?
You don't want to know what happened out there, sir.
Yes, I do. What happened next isn't important. It's what happened that night.
We stay with Brady. I wouldn't risk your life. I won't risk his.
She sure as hell saved the lives of those guys on the Black Hawk.
The captain was hurt pretty bad.
Look, I didn't want her out there in the first place.
In his search for answers.
What is it? Tell me, son.
Fire. The only thing more powerful than the facts he might find.
No surrender.
Is the truth he can't escape.
Fire!
He was like a brother to me.
It doesn't matter whether she gets this award or not. It doesn't matter whether I'm on this inquiry. It doesn't matter whether I'm in this army or not. I'm gonna find out the truth. I guarantee you that.
Directed by Ed Zwick, and visual effects storyboards by Darren Dochterman.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know him.
But it stars Meg Ryan as a pilot in the Mideast crisis. Denzel Washington is her superior officer, and it's kind of like a courtroom drama that deals with mishaps that may or may not have occurred on duty. And it's an interesting piece. It has a little bit of action in it, a little bit of intrigue. Meg Ryan is interesting. I don't think she was perfectly cast for this one, but Denzel certainly was, and he gives a powerful performance. And it's a little schizophrenic, the film. Because it goes back and forth between the past and the present, and tries to sort out the machinations of this occurrence where some people got killed, and it's interesting because I don't recall anyone mentioning this film ever. It sort of came out and left. But
isn't Matt Damon in it?
Yeah.
Matt Damon. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, but people mention it for Matt Damon because it was one of his early.
Yeah. And Michael Moriarty, Lou Diamond Phillips, Scott Glenn. Yeah. It's a very even Sean Astin. It's a very it's a good cast. It is a
and thorough.
Yeah.
Sean Astin showed a lot of courage under fire on the way to Mount Doom.
Well, that's true. That is absolutely true. But this finds out why the Eagles didn't show up earlier.
That's right.
Where Eagles didn't dare?
That's right.
What I remember most about this movie is the tank battle.
Yeah.
Now, and it's really super cool. Although the reality, of any armored engagement in the Gulf War was something like the Philadelphia Eagles playing a Pop Warner team, just an unholy massacre. But it was super cool. Like I remember the scope of that and just sort of how it captured that like really, really well.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was basically
great job
drawing
Darren.
tanks for a long time. But,
right. No, so that was awesome, dude. Hats off.
Well, my small contribution, but it's really well done and some invisible visual effects which are fascinating.
Great. I wasn't expecting that, but you picked some Denzel Washington movies before. I'm not going to mention what they are.
Yeah,
so this is an interesting pick from you.
I found it difficult not to select the ones that I love because I love them. We'll find out about them later, I'm sure.
I remember seeing this movie when it came out and really enjoying it. I honestly, I haven't seen it since it came out, and I don't remember much of it, but I remember it being a solid. I mean, Ed Zwick is a solid director. He always does good work.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's Tuesday, Courage Under Fire. On Wednesday, Ashley, tell us what we'll be watching.
So indulge me a moment as I kind of
we always do.
Yeah. What my pick is kind of by analogy. This is what I always think about when I think about this particular movie. There is an old Warner Brothers cartoon called Feed the Kitty.
Yep.
And it is about a bulldog named Mark Anthony. Now, Mark Anthony is this big, like slobbery bulldog, and he doesn't like put up with cats. But his problem is that his owner comes home one day with a kitten named Pussyfoot. And Mark Anthony has to be responsible for Pussyfoot. And Mark Anthony does not like Pussyfoot very much, very standoffish with Pussyfoot. And Pussyfoot totally takes advantage of Mark Anthony, like climbs up on his back. He's clawing. She's kind of like getting in there and all that kind of stuff. And finally, Mark Anthony kind of falls for the kitty. But then something terrible happens. Mark Anthony believes that he has accidentally baked Pussyfoot in the oven into a cookie. Sadly, he takes the cookie out of the oven, he puts it on his back, and he's walking around and he's kind of crying. And the owner comes home and he realizes that he didn't actually bake the kitten at all, that Pussyfoot is okay. And he's so happy. And then he's like, he's kind of like trying to be standoffish again. Like he doesn't really care. He doesn't want anybody to see that he's vulnerable. And oddly enough, in my pick, one of the actors in my pick is Mark Anthony. And I know that's the strangest connection, but that's not the connection. The real connection is the relationship between Mark Anthony, the big bulldog, and that tiny little kitten.
Well, hooray for the bulldog.
Hooray for the bulldog. My pick is Tony Scott's 2004 Ode to Badassery and Grenades Up the A-Hole, Man on Fire.
There were 24 kidnappings in Mexico City in the last 6 days. Have you protected a lot of children before, Mr. Creasy?
I don't know. Bodyguards got to be close to people. You know, I'm no good at that.
You're the silent type. People are going to appreciate that.
16 years of military experience, extensive counter-terrorism work.
What happened to your hand?
It's birth defect.
No, it's not.
No more questions. That's it. Period. You hear me?
Peter just wants to be friends.
I regret that your profession needs to exist.
So do I, Marjorie.
He's like a bear.
Yeah?
Big, sad bear. Good things happen too, Creasy.
Yeah? Like what?
Like meeting me. Creasy, you're smiling.
Peter! Peter! Run!
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go get her. Anyone who gets in my way, anybody who profited from it, anybody who opens their eyes at me, I'm gonna kill him.
Tell me about Creasy. I'd like to understand him. A man can be an artist in anything.
It depends on how good he is at it.
Creasy's art is death. He's about to paint his masterpiece.
Man
I
on
want to
Fire.
see how you tie these two together. I really do.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that Man on Fire is about a big angry bulldog played by Denzel Washington, and somebody gives him a kitten played by Dakota Fanning. And in spite of himself, he kind of falls for the kitten.
So it's Last of Us without the zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Mandalorian without the spaceships.
That's right. It's the dessert topping without the floor. Wait, what?
Without the floor wax.
Yeah, he kind of falls for this kid, like in a great way. Like she helps him to get past a lot of crap that's sort of lurking in his psyche. I mean, this guy is basically a professional killer. He is not a nice person. And his lack of niceness essentially lands him with a very difficult job. He's basically a pistolero who is protecting this girl for her very powerful father. And his whole job is to keep her from getting hurt, from getting kidnapped, from any of that crap. And of course, one day the worst happens and he fails. And it's an amazing sequence where the girl is taken. And it's what Denzel Washington later called, it's like he was working with 9-camera Tony. They literally he's in Mexico City. They have him on a turntable. They're turning him. He's got 9 cameras on him to kind of get his perspective as he's looking around for this girl, and he can't see her anywhere. Now, the critical response to Man on Fire originally was I think it wound up with something like a 38-39% of Rotten Tomatoes, which is bullshit. And the critics were like, oh, it's a really great, sort of first part, but then after the girl goes, it turns really violent and kind of no, idiots. The entire point of what makes this movie just, slappingly awesome is the violence that ensues, because everything that this man had been holding back comes out. And he just before Taken was taken, okay? Except it's Denzel, and he's in Mexico City, and he's playing for keeps. And it's, got a relationship at the heart of it that you already sort of root for, that you understand, because Denzel Washington is so great, because Dakota Fanning is so great, because Tony Scott is so great, demonstrating that when Tony Scott really wants to bring dramatic chops to something, he's a lot more than the guy, who does, kind of the fun stuff, that he's got a real sense of how to deal with actors, how to really create a scene, but then channels that into just this very straight ahead bull in a china shop, Mark Anthony, the bulldog in a china shop, with Denzel Washington, leading to one of my very favorite moments when Denzel jams a grenade up somebody's ass and pulls the pin and walks away. I mean, that, my friend, is an angry man. That is an angry, angry man. And it's, it's not the kind of thing. I mean, look, you never expect anybody, to jam a grenade up somebody's ass. You just don't expect it. But it is, a bit, it is coloring outside the line.
It's a little over the top there.
It's a little over the top, but in the most amazing way. If you're going to go over the top with a grenade and an ass. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I love Man on Fire. It was exactly the movie I needed to see at the moment that I went to see it. And it's not really like anything else that Denzel did, unless you count The Equalizer. But frankly, The Equalizer is sort of the Melba Toast version of like Man on Fire.
So Dakota Fanning is supposed to be the cookie puss in this scenario?
She's Pussyfoot. She's Pussyfoot the cookie kitty.
Now, this movie really works because, as big a badass as Denzel is, like his persona as an actor, informs, I think, you as an audience member, like you just know he's got this decency at the core of him that you trust that he'll do the right thing and have the strength to save this girl.
You think he will, you just don't know when.
Yeah,
that's right. You hope he will too, because you like her. You legitimately, she's not like one of those annoying kids in a movie. You know what I mean? And like, she's not just the MacGuffin. Like
she's not Boxy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Boxy, you're like, oh, come on, guys. Like there's Cylons, there's other stuff. You'll find other kids. But with this, it's everything. You know what it also is? It's not just Taken. It's a little bit John Wick. Right? Yeah. Except she's the dog, which is weird. Keep coming back to dogs, but it is. And it's also that sort of on-screen persona thing that Steve was talking about. It's somebody that you're like, wow, you're charismatic. I like you. You're nice. You're cool. I would invite you to my house for dinner. Oh, look, you're killing a whole lot of people, yet somehow I'm totally behind you.
Did you mention it was written by Brian Helgeland, who's, a terrific screenwriter? I mean, it's just I really enjoy. This is another one that I don't think I've seen since it came out, but I really liked it when it came out. And now I kind of want to watch it again.
By the way, no lube on that grenade.
You're obsessed. I need you to sit down and think about what you've done.
Without the grenade.
It's a grenadal fixation.
Clearly. Okay. Well, another great pick
grenadal retentive.
Which, of course, brings us to Thursday, and I think you all know what my pick is. It is Brett Leonard's sci-fi classic, Virtuoso.
That was your clever strategy for claiming it ahead of time.
Well, that actually would be a good misdirect. Like, if I didn't want you guys to pick it for Monday to Wednesday.
It would be if anyone wanted to pick it.
Save it for Russell Crowe week.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, it's interesting. This is a tough... this is a tough one because, what's interesting is Denzel, like a lot of the great iconic actors, had these great partnerships with directors. John Wayne had this great partnership with John Ford, and Cary Grant had a great partnership with like Howard Hawks, and just so many of these iconic actors who would just work again and again with these legendary directors. We've seen it again, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's amazing because Denzel had a bunch of these. And so, it's interesting because, of course, you mentioned Tony Scott, Man on Fire. He did a bunch of pictures with Tony Scott, some of them phenomenal, some of them not, right? Some of them are not so phenomenal. I've picked Crimson Tide many times on the show. So I'm not going to pick it today, not because it's not amazing, because it is, not because it didn't inspire the season of Picard, because it did, but it is, it's just, I think we picked it for, did we pick it for Sub Week, Under the Sea Week? I know we picked it for 6 best Star Trek movies that aren't Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
So I know we
Crimson Week.
And Tide.
Yeah. And Tide. Yeah, exactly. So I'm as much as I'd love to, I think anytime we can sing the praises of Crimson Tide, which is a movie from the 90s, which now isn't as well known or as well known as it should be. And part of that is because The Blu-ray is awful. It's an old master. There's no 4K. There's not a really great version.
I hate to say it, but we have not picked Crimson Tide.
Well,
what?
That's good information for us.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just reviewing the master list, and
always the bridesmaid.
Some kind of mistake.
Never the tie.
That
I
is
specifically remember us.
Well, I know we picked it for on that other podcast, Inglorious Treksperts, for Star Trek movies that are in Star Trek. So maybe that was where we picked.
Yeah. It was not an Under the Sea week.
We gotta keep track of our damn podcasts here.
Yeah. This is what you get for missing staff meetings. Obviously, I kind of thought that Darren was going to repeat himself with one of the great of two Ed Zwick collaborations.
Yeah, I thought about it.
Yeah, well, and that picture was Glory.
Glory,
you picked many, and it's an amazing film. Denzel Washington won Best Supporting Actor for that film. He also collaborated with Ed Zwick on a less well-known movie, The Siege, which came out right before 9/11, and it's a very interesting examination of how easily democracy can be trampled and people's civil rights be trampled on in the time of it's easy when things are going well, but when things are difficult. And it was a very controversial film at the time, but Denzel Washington's great in it, as is Bruce Willis. And I seriously thought about picking that movie, but I didn't. And now I'm really screwed because I didn't know that Crimson Tide had. Are you sure Crimson Tide was never picked?
It's not on my list here. I'm reviewing it right now.
If anybody would know,
it's not in the shadows.
It's the master of the list.
He knows because he's always prepared.
That's right, and we're not. We're riffing. We're improvising.
Yeah,
because I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you what I was going to pick, but now I may change my mind.
I wrote it down.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the other great collaboration of Denzel Washington's career is with the great Spike Lee. And he's brilliant in Mo Better Blues. He's even more brilliant in Malcolm X, which is a movie I love. Yep. But a movie that I just can watch again and again and again, which was going to be my pick for the week, is Inside Man.
Yep.
And you see,
we did pick that one.
But yeah.
So my pick will now be the Richard Attenborough film, Cry Freedom.
We are in this struggle to kill the idea that one kind of man is superior to another kind of man.
We're just as weak and human as you are.
We're gonna catch you red-handed one day. Then we'll see how human you are.
You see, in a war, people take great risks as a part of life. Well, we're at war.
Mr. Biko is one of the few people who can still save South Africa.
In a country where order is maintained by force, this country has a special kind of problem, and by lies.
I'm talking about police firing on unarmed people.
One man would have the courage to speak out against oppression.
If you're afraid of ideas, you better quit now.
And one man would have the courage to call him friend.
I don't understand why he's banned. You need a black leader you can talk to.
Our movement seeks to avoid violence.
This is an illegal gathering. But your own words call for direct confrontation.
Well, you and I are now in confrontation, but I see no violence.
They follow you everywhere. They think they do.
My police are investigating it.
Your police are the ones who did it.
You're a bit of poison, Biko. And I'm going to see you put away.
Say your name!
Bantu Stephen Biko.
You, Donald Woods, are declared a banned person.
What do you mean we got to leave? You're going to rip the kids from their schools, their grandparents, their whole life?
How could they do this to her?
Ach, we're not really the monsters we're sometimes made out to be.
You can beat me or jail me or even kill me. But I am not going to be what you want me to be.
What do you want to do? Accept what this government's doing is going to go on doing?
Now, from Academy Award winner Richard Attenborough, the director of Gandhi, comes the true story of the friendship that shook South Africa and awakened the world. Cry Freedom, starring Kevin Kline, Penelope Wilton, and Denzel Washington as Stephen Biko.
In which Denzel Washington, now it's a flawed movie. It's not a perfect movie, but Denzel in the first hour of the movie playing Stephen Biko is unbelievable. This is right in his St. Elsewhere. He'd just come off of St. Elsewhere. It's the late 80s. And obviously, this is the time of the divestment movement, with apartheid in South Africa. And it's an incredible film. I think the reason that it got hit so bad was because after they finished telling Stephen Biko's story, it then becomes the story of Kevin Kline, I believe, who's the white reporter who the white savior, which is, as the kids call it, somewhat problematic these days. But Denzel Washington's performance is so sensational. It's such a tour de force as Stephen Biko in Cry Freedom. This is the Richard Attenborough who directed Gandhi. And Cry Freedom, I prefer to Gandhi in many, many ways, although I don't prefer it to The Great Escape, which he did not direct, but starred as Triple X. So my pick... my
I don't think he was Triple X. I think he was just X. Triple X is another movie.
The whole mother. I thought, we do not suitable for work week. That will be that'll be it. Okay, so my pick is Richard Attenborough's Cry Freedom, starring Denzel Washington as Stephen Biko.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing this movie at USC. They brought it in for 466 class, and I had been familiar with Denzel from St. Elsewhere, of course, and he's magnetic, on the big screen, and it was a wonderful performance. He was nominated for an Oscar, Best Supporting Actor for that performance, and for the I guess he was and some other awards, but it was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that. And yeah, I remember that movie making a big impression in 1987 when it came out. It's terrific.
A lot of people feel that they discovered him with Glory, but I think for a lot of us, we really discovered him in Cry Freedom, and it's like, oh my God, this guy is really good.
Yeah,
wait a second, he was on St. Elsewhere? It's like, and then then Glory just is obviously sensational, and it's no wonder that Darren picked it previously. It's a tough movie to watch, but it's a great movie. So that's my pick for Thursday, which brings us to Friday. So many great other choices for Friday.
Although, we should talk about them all, but I'm not going to lie. It's kind of a layup. Since we picked Crimson Tide, this is probably the time. But he's got such a filmography, so let's
Stephen, tell us why what Ashley's saying may not be true.
Yeah, prove me wrong.
There's a deep bench here. There's a lot of iconic films and performances to consider for that Friday slot. I am leaning towards Crimson Tide because it's such a wonderful entertainment.
Yeah.
And we haven't picked it before, but there's some solid films to discuss.
One we definitely haven't picked before is from 2001, and it's from the person who brought us the Wordsmith and Cartoon Boy.
Oh God!
It's remember the Antoine Fuqua, and it's Training Day, which is a pretty powerful movie. It's sort of like a buddy cop film from hell,
and with a man you don't want as your buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or as a cop.
Great performances by Denzel and Ethan Hawke, Scott Glenn, of course, and Tom Berenger. It's really well done. It's gritty driving around the streets of LA, and it's pretty powerful. And Denzel does some things that you didn't think he would do.
Smoke this,
yeah. Well, I have to say, last year. He really surprised me in Joel Coen's The Tragedy of Macbeth, which is just a gorgeously realized and beautifully shot film in which he anchors it, and it's just sensational. in that film, and it didn't get as much love as it deserved. But again, it was an Apple TV premiere, and I think that it lost a little luster because of that. But boy, is he great in it.
It's being remade as the comedy of Macbeth, which is
it's kind of awesome that
the
Joel
dancing
Cohen,
trees are great.
His only two collaborators have been his brother and William Shakespeare. I mean,
yeah,
he also top-lined a couple of remakes of some of my favorite movies, and he's the only good thing about them. Right, Magnificent Seven remake, which he starred in, and a Manchurian Candidate, which he also starred in. Obviously, inferior remakes to great films.
And the Taking of Pelham 123.
Pelham 123.
Well, oh yes, and Taking of Pelham 123. Also, the best thing about that movie, but it's not even close. To the Joseph Sargent classic.
Right.
Yep. In spite of Tony Scott.
I mean,
there's also Remember the Titans, which is actually
he's actually quite
great
good
for sports movie.
I haven't seen Remember the Titans. My son keeps asking me to watch it because he says it's great, and I've heard great things about it, and I really need to watch it. So that is the blind side in my movie going,
as opposed to Remember the Titan A, which is on Picard this season.
That's right. The Titan
also we talked a lot
there
about
were so many Titans before.
We talked a lot about Tony Scott, but he worked with his brother Ridley, and I love American Gangster, where he plays Frank Black. That deals with the numbers racket, and then later on, of course, the drug trade in Harlem and New York. And I think people have the same problem they have with a lot of Ridley stuff. It's like it's so beautifully shot and so beautifully composed that some of the grit of that story gets lost. But boy, is Denzel Washington great in it, and it's a great looking movie, as are all Ridley Scott's films.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, there's Philadelphia that he co-starred with Tom Hanks, or he, a lot of people at first blush would say, well, Philadelphia is the story of Tom Hanks's character, but it's really more about Denzel Washington. He's the character that really changes and
confronts his homophobia.
Yeah, and he's wonderful in it.
And they had great action figures.
Yes, I will rule Philadelphia.
With an iron fist. I like the prequel, the Philadelphia Experiment.
Right, and then the Philadelphia Story.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Speaking of movies that you guys have picked before, you guys have picked on the show. I think it was either Darren or Steve picked A Soldier Story from 1984.
Yeah,
a couple of months back.
I remember seeing that movie. As a kid, my God, that was early, dude. That was like the mid 80s, right? So I was maybe 13. Yeah, I saw that on VHS. We rented it. My dad rented it. I remember that movie just kind of like, it was like being, I don't know. I had never quite seen anything like that before. I think that, things like that had not yet been, in my taste wheelhouse. So it really made an impression on me. I think I watched it like 3 or 4 times, like the weekend that we rented it.
Tonight's film is brought to you by Taste Wheelhouse.
That's right. It's like we replaced his real blood with Taste Wheelhouse.
I also want to make mention 2 remarkable films, which are anchored again by terrific tour de force performances by Denzel, but the movies aren't quite on his level, which is The Flight and The Hurricane. Which both have their own problems, but he is not one of them.
Yeah. Oh, Flight, by Robert Zemeckis, where he plays the pilot of an alcoholic airline pilot who basically saves his plane from one of the most harrowing, airplane crash sequences put to film. It's truly terrifying, and Denzel's wonderful in it. The rest of the film, like you said, isn't really up to par with his performance, but a solid.
It's kind of the story of his career in a lot of ways, other than those movies where, obviously everything comes together and they're just terrific. He is always awesome. There's nothing you look at in his filmography and go like, yeah, that's kind of the one where he stunk up the joint, or he just was like, didn't show up that day. But there are things that he's been in that I desperately wanted to love because of how great he was, and because there were things in the premise that you could sort of see, except virtuosity. Book of Eli.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a movie that like I really, really, really wanted to love, and I should have loved, and he was terrific in it. But I merely liked it. There's something that was just kind of not there. Yeah, exactly. Was that the Hughes brothers?
Was it?
Yeah, it was the Hughes brothers.
And
Gary Whitta wrote the script.
Written by my friend Gary Whitta.
Nice.
I liked Unstoppable, another Tony Scott film about kind of a runaway train. Again, maybe not. It's a good B movie, and there's nothing wrong with a good B movie. And Denzel anchors that film. He's terrific in it, but more of an action film with Chris Pine.
Yeah. And then of course there's The Equalizer, which is, I think, his most like straight down the middle commercial kind of film. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just like it's exactly what it needs to be. It's engineered to be a box office success, a potential franchise movie for a guy who'd never done any sequels before. It's just it gets the job done, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, exactly. It is fine. It's like you almost forget that it happened. But it did well enough that there was an Equalizer 2 that you did forget happened. You forget it so hard that you're surprised when you find out that he's doing the Equalizer 3. And you kind of hope he's teaming up with Queen Latifah to fight Edward Woodward, but then you realize that Woodward is dead. But then you're like, what if he comes back as a Force ghost? I mean, there's so many possibilities for these films. I don't know.
I keep thinking of misquoting Citizen Kane again and saying, Mommy, is Crimson Tide Friday yet?
Well, okay. Before we go there, I just want
to don't forget Roman J. Do you ever see Roman J. Israel Esquire with Dan Gilroy?
No, I saw Roman J. Palestine.
But
I thought Wile E. Coyote, super genius. He never studied law.
I mean, I remember when it came out and 12 people saw it. I guess you're two of them.
Yeah, no, it was a good movie. Colin Farrell was in it. Yeah, it's a solid movie.
What isn't Colin Farrell in? That's the question.
We should do Colin Farrell week, and it could be a month of movies. I want to circle back to a movie I mentioned earlier, Inside Man, which I think we did pick for like Heist Week or something. Yep. It's so great. It's a beautifully directed by Spike Lee. It has a great score. I think it was Terrence Blanchard who did it, but Clive Owen, is the antagonist in that, and Jodie Foster's in it. Great Chris Plummer is in it, and it is a really terrific heist movie. It reminds me, it's a better remake of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, and 3 in a sense that it's two guys who are their equals, like Mathau was with Robert Shaw. You have Denzel Washington, Clive Owen, much more so. I don't remember who the villain was in the remake. It's a much better
it's great
film.
and it's really smart, and you don't see everything coming, which is a nice thing.
No, it's hard.
Really smart and cool.
It's hard. You never get ahead of that movie.
Yeah,
and that was a real great. Spike Lee flexing another set of muscles. I think people thought they knew what a Spike Lee movie was. And then, he does something like that.
A joint.
Yeah, Spike Lee joint. Excuse me.
You briefly mentioned Mo Better Blues. I just wanted to circle back to that briefly. I really enjoyed that when it came out. Denzel stars in it with Wesley Snipes, and, this terrific drama taking place in the jazz world, and very stylish. And that's a movie I just got recently on Criterion Blu-ray that I've been needing to queue up.
But, Steve, what's Mo Better? Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
I keep hearing you say Prince of Tides.
That's because my microphone today, right before we started recording, it died on me. My Blue Yeti. So I'm on my Apple
You're on your Cocaine Bear microphone.
So I apologize if I sound a little distant and muffled, but
it's a tin can connected to the computer with a string.
Because we're keeping your body in the trunk.
Working just fine. But look, Crimson Tide, extraordinary film, and the fact that Denzel could go up against Gene Hackman, two titans. It's like watching a heavyweight boxing. Did we not pick Crimson Tide for Hackman Week, Hackman Fever Week?
We did.
We got to pick Crimson Tide. Because Crimson Tide is the shit.
As you no doubt heard, my XO has appendicitis. Your name was at the top of the list.
That's good to know, sir.
It was a short list.
There's trouble in Russia. So they called us. And we're going over there and bringing the most lethal killing machine ever devised.
The last time we hit this state of emergency was 32 and a half years ago during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this is what it's all about, gentlemen. It's what we train for.
Submerge the ship.
Diving officer, submerge the ship, make it depth 150 feet.
On the 1MC. Dive.
This year,
we have a properly formatted emergency action message from National Command Authority.
what we've always known
Bravo. Echo. Charlie. Alpha.
becomes what we've always feared.
Gentlemen, this is the captain. Russian rebels have threatened to launch against our country and are fueling right now. This is not a drill.
Now,
Sir, we have a possibly submerged submarine.
You find out who that is.
Receiving emergency action message. Recommend alert 1.
the battle for survival begins.
That's a message fragment.
Sir, we don't know what this message means. Our target package could have changed.
I've made a decision.
There's no place for fear.
He's lost his nerve.
I'd rather go out myself and get this one wrong.
There's no room for mistakes.
If we launch and we're wrong, what's left of Russia is going to launch at us.
I'm captain of this boat. I don't have to think this over.
There's no time for doubt.
The missile system's ready to launch in 6 minutes.
You repeat this order or I'll find somebody who will.
Hell no, you won't, sir.
And nothing can stop the tide.
Come on, shoot our torpedoes in the water!
Right forward.
1,000 yards at closing time! Make your depth 1,200 feet! Hang on, everybody!
We cannot launch our missiles unless both you and I agree.
They're fueling their missiles.
He's right on top of us!
Please commando. Under arrest. Under charge of mutiny.
Curate, lock Captain Ramsey in his stateroom.
Fire one now. Give me the missile key, Mr. Hunter. Sir, we are going down. I'm the commander of this ship.
Crimson Tide.
God help you if you're wrong.
If I'm wrong, then we're at war. God help us all.
It's so good.
Everything about that movie is great. It's beautifully
Ship.
shot. It's incredibly well acted. The dialogue is amazing. It's so tense.
It's gorgeously shot.
The score is fantastic. Literally everything. And for Denzel, to me, like why it's a good Friday pick, other than the fact that we all love the hell out of that movie, is that everything that you love about Denzel Washington is on display in that film. You get the intensity, you get the subtlety, you get the sense of humor, you get the anger, you get the cool, you get like the
intelligence,
the man of principle, and the intelligence, and the Star Trek references. It's the perfect package.
Remember what Scotty used to say? Right? Exactly. It's
what more could anyone ask?
You could not ask for anything more.
And after all this episode, it's the Prince of Tide.
Yeah. I remember I saw this movie with you, Mark. We saw it together at the old Beverly Connection theaters.
Someday you'll find it.
Across the street from the Beverly Center.
I have one thing to say to you. Very aware, sir.
But one of my biggest memories, besides I was loving this movie so much, the tension was so high that I'd slurp down my soda like in the first half hour or something.
Oh, no.
So by the last half hour, I had to use the bathroom so badly, but the movie was so great, I could not leave my seat.
It's going to be a different kind of tide coming.
Yeah, to see how this ends.
And you know what that tide's crimson? Call your doctor.
Oh my God. And I think once the tension was resolved at the end, I had to run to the frickin' restroom. So I missed the denouement.
You missed the after credit sequence where he gets invited into the Avengers.
Yeah,
right.
Well, you find out what happened to Gene Hackman's little dog.
Yeah.
And you know what's so great about that movie, and it's more relevant now than ever, they're both right and they're both wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of, and that's a wonderful denouement, as you say.
In fact, that should have been the tagline on the poster.
They're both right and they're both wrong. And also, it's not that the audience has to walk away feeling, oh, they were both right and both wrong. It's the movie doesn't take sides.
Yeah.
Even at the very end, obviously Denzel Washington is our point of view character. So we have a little more sympathy for him from that regard. But we don't walk away from that film feeling like Gene Hackman was the villain who was defeated.
You're playing both sides.
like Russell Crowe in Virtuosity.
Yes, the Vilnius school teacher.
It's such a good movie, and again, it's a movie that a lot of people aren't familiar with. They haven't seen. They don't know about it, which is amazing because it was a big success back in the mid '90s when it came out, or early '90s when it came out, and I can't say enough good things about it.
Has there been a good disc release of it? Because there's a
shitty Blu-ray.
Yeah, I watched it on DVD a couple weeks ago. That's all I have is the DVD, and it doesn't look great.
Well, there are rumors that Disney is going to get serious about physical media again. Yeah. Now, given the streaming wars have not paid off the way they hoped. So there was talk. I guess Bob Iger was saying we're going to look very seriously again at we gave up a lot of revenue on physical media because and now it might be time to sort of bring that back and hopefully look at into catalog titles, plus all those great Fox titles. Like the fact the original Planet of the Apes hasn't come out in 4K yet is crazy.
Yeah.
Wait. Do I feel another week or a special report coming on? Because we did the death of physical media. Special report.
The rebirth of physical media.
Question mark.
For Easter, we're doing it.
That's right. And if he sees his shadow, there's 6 more weeks of winter.
6 more weeks of streaming.
Oh, wait. That's a different holiday.
Okay. Well, what a great week. What a great week. I mean, plus we could have done a whole second week of Denzel movies. I mean, whenever we do these actor weeks, there's just such a plethora of great choices.
Plethora?
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these movies we mentioned, other than Virtuosity. So we're all agreed it's going to be Crimson Tide on Friday.
Yeah.
Yes. The tide is high.
And we're rolling on.
What was the tagline for that? You remember? Crimson Tide. What was it? It was terrible. It was like the tide is what was it? The tide is something. I'm going to look. Yeah, anybody remember?
No.
They call Alabama the Crimson Tide. Call me
Go
Deep in the
Bama.
Blues.
Here, let's see. Crimson Tide tagline. Let's see if people at home are like, what?
What are you doing?
I don't think this was it. It says on the brink of nuclear war, 2 men clash over the fate of the world. No, that can't be it. That's not it.
That's a terrible tagline. In space, no one can hear you.
Oh, here it is.
Danger
Are you
runs
ready?
deep.
Danger runs deep. That's right.
Oh, boy. Oh, my God. I hope that guy was fired.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not really, because I'm sure he had a family to feed, but,
Well, it was Touchstone Films, the worst marketed films. Was it Touchstone or Hollywood? They were both awful. Disney had their adult film division, and they could do no right in terms of the marketing, so this doesn't surprise me. Danger runs deep. That's good. You get it. Gold star for you.
To be fair, it does.
It does.
The danger was deep. Yeah. It wasn't shallow. It was deep.
Silent.
No, it was shallow.
And deadly. But silent and deadly and deep.
Silent but violent.
Well,
run deep, run deadly.
The submarine movie I worked on was down Periscope. And I came up with a tagline for the poster that almost got through. And mine was, "It's long, it's hard, it's filled with semen."
Oh my God!
It almost
you sure
made
Robert did go with
that. Would have been perfect.
Wow.
That's just, it might have made some money had they gone with that.
I would have gone to see the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, well, this was a great week, guys. A great week. To remind our audience of what our picks are.
Pixar. We're not doing Pixar.
Monday, Denzel Washington takes it easy in Carl Franklin's film adaptation of Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress.
Tuesday, it's Darren Document's pick.
On Tuesday, Denzel doesn't take it easy because he has Courage Under Fire.
On Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller, tell us what we're watching.
On Wednesday, there's always time for lubricant in Tony Scott's 2004 Man on Fire.
On Thursday, Denzel Washington cries freedom in Cry Freedom. On Friday, and I think on Friday, we all know
that's a tautology.
Danger runs deep. Crimson Tide
runs deep and it runs red.
Oh my! Oh well, what a week! What a week! And if you're enjoying this sixth season of the 430 movie,
what's wrong with you?
Please check us out on social at the 430 movie on Twitter or Instagram or even on Facebook. You can follow our sister shows, Inglorious Trexperts and Inglorious Trexperts, and Deck 78, the subscriber only series. You can subscribe at TrexpertsPlus.com. And of course, we want to thank the great Mark Rivera, who continues to make us sound great. Even though I'm not on my Blue Yeti microphone, I apologize to everyone for that. And a Blue Yeti, it sounds like a movie, right? From the 70s. Blue Yeti, it's like the Sasquatch. Maybe he fought the $6 million man.
Oh,
it's the Bionic Woman
David
versus
Lynch's
Blue Yeti. And what else? Oh, Peter Holmstrom, thank you so much for your help, producer, picking clips and all that fun stuff. And that's really going to do it for us. But big shout out to the great Denzel Washington for giving us so much entertainment. And that's going to be it. So on behalf of Darren Dochterman, Steve Melching, Ashley Miller, and myself, Mark A. Altman, stay with the ILC. And until next week, Eyewitness News starts now.